In this video, we're going to cover the very basics of HTML5. This will be the first in a series of tutorials that will move on to CSS3 and JavaScript. In the future, tutorials will be coming to cover React, PHP, SQL, and much more. So please, subscribe and follow along. In this first HTML tutorial, we will just look at the very basic HTML boilerplate. What each line means, what are tags, elements, and attributes. So let's begin by opening VS Code and we'll install an extra extension or two. I'll uncheck that because I don't need the welcome screen every time. If you followed my previous tutorial, you'll already have VS Code installed with the Prettier extension and the VS Code Icons extension installed. Two more we definitely want are Live Server and CSS Peak. So over to the extension panel, we'll search for the Live Server and click to install that. Now we'll repeat for CSS Peak. This will come in handy later when we make use of CSS classes. And actually, I'll install this as well. Feel free to install any you think can help improve your experience. Let's go and open a folder. You will want to browse to wherever you want to store your project. If you don't have a folder ready just right, click and create a new folder. I already have a web development folder, so I will select that. Now we'll right-click in the Explorer panel and create our initial file. We will always name this index.html. When a browser visits any website domain, the file it looks for by default is index.html. Otherwise, your web address would need to be www.mydomain.com/homepage, with homepage being your landing page. We don't want that, we want a short URL, and our homepage will always be index.html. This way, the user doesn't have to specify what page on the domain they want. And I'm not getting the HTML file icon I want, so I'll just head back into Extensions and check that VS Code Icons is installed and enabled, and for some reason I have disabled it, so I'll just fix that. We'll start by going over some boilerplate code. Boilerplate is the very basic tags and elements that every page should have. And the joy of using an IDE is we haven't got to type that out every page. In VS Code, in your index.html file, just type an exclamation mark and press Tab. Voila! We have our basic elements. I'll just space them out a little more. So, what is all this? This first tag is a declaration. It just tells the browser that, yes, this is a web page. Next up, we have our HTML tag. This tells the browser where the page starts and finishes. Absolutely everything you want on your page has to be inside these. Inside the HTML tags, we have the head tags. This contains information about your page that isn't displayed on the page. This charset UTF-8 is an attribute of the meta tag. It is saying that we want to use the character set UTF-8, which is the standard. This next meta tag is used for scaling the page to the user's screen. It is saying, get the device width and scale to match the width. Now, I did say that nothing in the head tag is displayed on the page, but the title is displayed in the tab. We can see this if we right-click and open in Live Server. When we change the title to something more suitable, that is what gets displayed in your tab. Now we can see that that tab is for my web page, obviously handy if you have multiple tabs open. Now we have the body element. This is where we write the content that displays on your page. So all page content goes inside the opening and closing body tags. Let's put in a H1. This is a level 1 heading. It is the largest of the 6 headings, and you should only have one H1 on each page. It won't break your page if you have more, but as standard you should stick to one level 1 heading per page. So just to recap, this meta and the head and the title, these are all tags. The content inside them, like charset or name, these are attributes. Tags have a ton of attributes that we will use later in the course. This combination of an opening body tag and a closing body tag is an element, the body element. The same applies for this H1 element. We'll have a quick look at the other header tags. Remembering header tags are very different to the head tags, we have H1 to H6. H1 being the most important and H6 being the least important. These are not just used to control the size of the text, we'll do that later with CSS. The headers help search engine optimization, and we all want our page to be found. So these headers help the search engine quickly know what our page is about, making it more likely to be displayed to our target audience in searches. It is nice to get into the habit of typing the first tag, then tab, to auto-generate the closing tag. And there we have the 6 header tags used in HTML5. Don't try to do H7 tag as 6 is the limit. I want to finish up the head element for now, and one last thing I want in there is an icon for the tab bar. So I'm going to create a new folder and name it Images. Into this, I'm going to drag my PNG file and just drop it in there. Inside the head element, I want a link tag with a relationship, rel, of icon, and a href, which is the directions to the file's location. You can also add an attribute type of image docs icon, but that isn't really necessary with HTML5, so I won't bother. And there it is. You can see our little icon in the tab browser. Now I'll finish up what we've done so far by just throwing in a horizontal rule HR tag. This is just a line across the page. That is it. If you followed along, then you have built a valid web page already. Granted, it might not be the best looking piece of work you've done, but we all got to start somewhere. The last thing we will do today is check what we've created for errors using the W3C validation tool. I'll put a link in the description. We just make sure we've saved our changes, Control S, then we can upload our file to the validator. This is why it pays to always remember where you save stuff. Folders get lost so easily on my PC. There it is. And we can just click check. And sure enough, it is perfect. No errors found. Let's create an error and see what happens. I'll just delete a bit of this tag, save it and upload it again. Now we have an error, and you'll see it tells us exactly what line the error is on, so W3C Validator can be a very useful tool for error checking your pages. I'll pop back and fix that now before I forget what I did. That is it for this tutorial. Next up, we will look at lists and paragraphs in HTML. Don't worry, it won't take too long to cover all the HTML elements we need. Then we can move on to CSS, which is where we add color and life to our page. Goodbye for now.